guys? Welcome to episode 64, the real episode 64. If you listen to the last show, you will know that I misspoke. So anyway, doesn't matter. Numbers are numbers. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys have a fantastic Thursday. Enjoy some turkey, or if you're wise, maybe something a little bit better than turkey. I think it might have been a plague. It might have been a plague that made everybody eat turkey to begin with, but there's nothing good about turkey. Nothing. Chicken's not great, but turkey is way worse. So anyway, we're having chicken instead of turkey this year. And most of my friends are having things like, good stuff like tacos instead. But here's the deal. Today's show is on it's on common problems, common issues that we run into. And that's around turbo sizing, injector sizing, towing with your 7.3. And, we really should just turn this into the 7.3 diesel show. Vaughn worked on this way too late, getting the episode prepared, and I feel kind of bad. I feel sort of bad that I kept him up late, but he pursued, he worked on it until about midnight, and that's his time. So it's about midnight here, and I'm going to finish this up. We'll get it out. So happy Thanksgiving, for real, for me and for you. And today's show is about choosing the right turbo size. When you go too big, what happens? What are the benefits and the downsides to a turbo that's larger than stock? Or when you go way too big, what happens? So good show. Enjoy it. It's pretty short, be about 20 minutes. We'll talk to you guys on the next side. Oh, by the way, if you're not signed up for our email, like our mailing list, you're gonna get offers from mailing list, and you're tired of seeing emails. But seriously, I have spent the last 2.5-3 months studying how to send emails that actually are useful. And in our emails, just gonna say it, they're fire. They're fire. Not all of our automated emails are updated yet, but they will be. But our mailing list, they're awesome. They're actually worth listening to. Because I was like, how do we send emails that people want to read? And they give them something worth reading. You should sign up. You seriously should. Like right now, you should sign up. Because we don't send them frequently, but when we do, they contain lots of good information that doesn't cost you anything. Just like this show. So if you like the show, subscribe, listen now. You're going to learn something good.
Got a Kill Devil Diesel Stage 2 long block motor running full force 205/30s with a KC 300X Stage 2 turbo. Your idea is good list. Change something up. What do you think?
Okay, so you've already done a build. It looks like you have a fuel system that was on your list already, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm running the I-rate regulated return system.
How long have you had this build together? Have you been driving it for a while, or is it still in the works?
It's still in the works. I've probably got 3,000 miles on the motor. I'm not going to say it's like last week build, but it's...
So what exactly can I help you with? You're just looking for whether the parts work well together? That's all you're looking for?
Well, do they work well together? Do I need to drop to a lower injector? Just for I'm trying to get 450-ish maybe, if I can, with those injectors. If not, do I need to step down? Do I need to go to a bigger turbo to get where I need to be? Is that the kind of input you can give me, or not really? Or
well, let's start with this. What do you use the truck for?
It's a daily, but then I hook up to a 14,000-pound fifth wheel and tow it from to the beach or to the mountains, up through the mountains, Appalachian Mountains, stuff like that.
Have you done that since you started the build, or since you got it together?
No.
So here's what matters. At the end of the day, this is what matters. There is no such thing as a right build or a wrong build. It only matters, does the truck function the way you want it to? Are you happy with the build? So, there's certainly nothing wrong. Like if we're just talking the pairing of parts, there's nothing wrong with the 205/30 KC Stage 2 drop-in. You've got a I-rate fuel system to match it. Sounds like you got a great engine. Kill Devil, great way to go for a new engine. That's all fantastic. So does the truck do what you want it to do? Are you happy with the way it drives? Are you happy with the way it starts, it idles? Like, or is there stuff that you don't like about it? Is there something you're trying to, like, are you asking because there's an issue, or are you happy with how it runs?
I mean, I'm happy to an extent. I'm curious. I know this, you're not like the telemechanic person, but I do think it's a little rich at idle, and it's real smoky at like low RPMs and just getting on it. And I was really trying to see if I could get away from that. But I mean, I don't know if maybe but I did the stage 2 300X, but I did the 1.0 AR, not the 0.84.
What do you call low RPMs?
Probably like 12 to 15, probably 12 to 1400, just like before it drops a gear kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean that turbo is not going to do anything until like, around 1900 or so at least.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering if the 84 might. Sorry.
It's not going to give you power at 12 to 1500. No. Nothing you do will, really. I mean, even from the factory, the stock turbo is not very responsive at 1500 RPM. And certainly anything that's bigger than that is going to be even less responsive. So the only option there is, either downshift, keep RPMs up, and that can be handled through tuning or gear ratio, tire size, combination of them. And if you have a smoke problem, then either you've got an air issue, which we know there's not going to be a lot of airflow at that RPM. Maybe there's things you could do to help with that, like check for leaks, pressurize the charge air system, verify that there's no exhaust leaks, no charge air leaks, and then the other thing would be just reduce fuel in tuning. I mean, if it's smoking too much and everything else seems to be correct, then it would be a matter of pulling fuel out of tuning, which is going to reduce power also, but that's just, it's inevitable. So as long as you're maintaining, injection pressure, you're maintaining fuel pressure, you don't have any big leaks, then and smoke is the issue at a lower RPM, you can drop the turbine housing size down, and that will bring, if you drop from 1.0 to a 0.84 housing, it'll drop your responsive RPM range about 100-ish RPM, 150 RPM maybe. But it's not going to give you power at 12 to 1500. It's just not going to happen. And so if smoke is an issue there, it needs to be addressed through making sure there's no mechanical issues, no leaks. And then if there isn't anything wrong there, then it's going to be adjusting tuning to clean the smoke up, more than likely. And I guess the other thing would be like, what's your tire size gear ratio situation?
Running 35s right now. I mean, you asked about the rear end ratio or the transmission?
Yeah, well, the transmission doesn't change, but what's your rear end ratio?
Whatever factory on that one, I think it's probably 373.
The easiest way to check is we have a tool on our website. If you just go under the main menu, there's the tools tab, the tools page, and you can punch in your pick whatever speed and RPM you would be at with your tire size, and it'll tell you what the gear ratio is. Or you can go the opposite. You can put in a gear ratio and a tire size and a speed, and it'll tell you, any one of them. It'll go any direction, but that'll tell you for sure what it is.
Per KC, the 20530 is like the max injector for that stage 2 turbo. But now I was just curious if it's worth me stepping up to the stage 3 over the stage 2 and just being in the middle of the road of the turbo for the injector instead of being at the limit on my turbo now.
What do you think the benefit of going to the larger turbo would be?
I physically don't know what the benefit, I don't have a clue what to think the benefit would be. I'm just going off of like what they say on their website, like, hey, these are the recommended injectors. The stage 2's max injector you can use on their website is the 20530. I was just thinking maybe if I run a turbo that I'm middle of the road instead of a turbo that I'm maxed out on, would that give me a little bit more airflow? Maybe that's where I'm going with it. Would increase my airflow.
All right. So the best way I can answer that is this. If you change in any way, if you put a larger turbo in the truck, it's going to be less responsive all the time. Every single time you go up in any size, whether that's a compressor wheel or a turbine wheel or a housing size, which in the case of KC's chargers, if you go from a stage 1 to a stage 2 to a stage 3, some piece of it gets bigger every time. That's the point, is so that you have more airflow, but at the sacrifice of moving it up in RPM. So if you put a bigger turbo on it, it's going to have the opposite effect of what you wanted to accomplish with a smaller turbine housing. It's going to become less responsive. And if what you're trying to address is cleaning up fuel or making less smoke after the turbo spooled up, like at higher RPM, then that's when you would consider using a larger turbo. But if the issue you're having now is that it's not very responsive and it's smoky before you get on top of the turbo, that is not going to be addressed by putting a bigger turbo in it. It's going to be made worse by putting a bigger turbo in it. Like I said, like the exact opposite of why you would put a smaller turbine housing on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, that's where I was uncertain and definitely needed somebody with your expertise that could put a parts list or whatever to say yay or nay kind of thing.
So, yeah, so I definitely would not put a KC Stage 3 with those injectors, because all you do, anytime, and this is the case, anytime you want to make more power, especially on a non-VGT truck, modern variable vane exhaust system or exhaust housing, anytime you want to make more power, it requires a bigger turbo. And anytime you put a bigger turbo on it, the narrower your RPM or your power window is going to be, and it will move it up to a higher RPM. So every bit more power you want to make that moves you up in turbo size will always move your RPM later, just to make a higher peak number. And so that's why, when we're targeting a build and this is where most people land, almost everyone is going to stay either with stock injectors and a turbo to match that, so that has the broadest RPM power window possible. Or at most, we go up to what's the best balance of how much power we can make that still maintains the broadest RPM band. And that's usually around a 30% nozzle, and then a KC stage 1 turbo or something in that realm, like a 63, 68 charger. And I shouldn't say it like that, specifically that. That's a good combination. And there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with a 205/30 and a KC Stage 2. That's a nice combination of parts, but it is less responsive than a smaller turbo would be.
Those injectors are too big to go back to a Stage 1?
They're not, because you can just not run you could just not run a 200cc injector at 200 cc's. In other words, don't run it in a race tune, wide open throttle, and it will not be 200 cc's. So you could move it down in turbo size. That still doesn't get you power at 12 to 1500 RPM. That's not going to be possible. But you can lower it some.
Definitely, I do understand that. Yeah, I'm not going to be. I'm not producing power at that bottom end. You never do. Your power comes at your top end. So, I get that part. Now, with the 205/30, what advantage do I have to stepping up to the 205/80 or 100? I kind of understand the numbers, but I kind of don't.
It would make a higher peak power number and require a larger turbo, which would then move your power band up and make it narrower. So rather than making power from 1900 to 3000 RPM, you would go from making power like 2200 to 3000 RPM, to make a higher peak number at a higher RPM.
Which is not probably the best for towing. So bigger percentage size means, not necessarily better towing performance.
No, it's a common misconception that just simply making more power is needed to tow better. I mean, if in a perfect world that would be true, and that is sort of true with modern trucks that were actually designed to make 500 horsepower from the factory, which truthfully they rarely do. They have so many ways they derate. They don't actually make that much power. But if they did and it was practical and useful, but they also are way more efficient engines, way more efficient charger systems, and turbos, and injection system. Everything about them is better. I mean, they're 25 year newer technology, significant difference. But when it comes to a 7.3, more power does not mean it will tow better. And there's definitely there's a lot of problems that come with trying to make more power that make it worse for towing because it's going to be less reliable. And so generally, this is, we get asked a lot about, wanting to make your truck drive like a 6.7 or like a modern truck in general. The best, normally what people are looking for is not necessarily a peak number that matches what a newer truck is. You're looking for the drivability that comes from a modern diesel, and that's having a broad RPM band, making torque at as low RPM as possible and then carrying that through. That's more important than a peak number is. And the best way to do that is to keep it smaller. So, I mean, your options here are kind of one. If you do have 3.73s and you're running, 35s, possibly regearing it, maybe making some changes to tuning. If you
like a 410,
it depends on your tire size. Do you spend a lot of time on the highway? Like, you spend a lot of time at 65, 70 miles an hour when you're towing, or are you usually slower than that?
Yeah. I mean, most of it probably is. Yeah. I have definitely looked at regearing to 410s. I've looked at that. Just haven't done it.
Yeah, might be 410s, might be might even be a lower gear than that. But what I would do is I would use the calculator we have on the site, and whatever gear you want to tow in, whether that's overdrive or it's third gear, and whatever speed you want to be able to efficiently tow at, I would target between 2100 and 2400 RPM. You would want to be cruising when you're towing at that RPM.
And that's not hurting the motor at all, running at 2300 RPM for a good period of time.
Nope, that's what it's made for.
I mean, I know, obviously I know you don't want to keep the RPMs low, but I didn't know what the number is that is not good to maintain for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, you can run the engine at whatever RPM you need to. In other words, higher is not worse. And the engine is going to be most efficient at around within about 200 RPM of 2200 RPM. So between 2000 to 2100 RPM, and then up to maybe 20, 24, 26, somewhere in that range. That's, if you can stay in that window, that's perfect. That's where it should be. And it's also going to be the most useful there. Even with a setup like this, you're going to be right on top of the charger, so you can roll into the pedal. Power's available. Stay clean, stay cool. That's what you're looking for. In bigger tires will.
Do y'all offer gearing on your site? Y'all offer gear ratio reduction, stuff like that?
We don't have any gears listed. It's one of the projects we're going to work on this winter, is get that stuff updated, along with proper tooling to help decide what to get and calculate it. But yeah, we can help you find it. But it's up to you to pick what you want. If your ultimate goal is that you want the best towing rig you can have, probably one of the best things you can do is get rid of 35s too. I know that sucks if the truck's lifted, but bigger tires do absolutely nothing good for towing. It's all bad. They might look good, and there might be some practical benefit if you're off-road or something like that. But smaller or stock-like tires are going to be the best thing you can do for towing. If you don't want to change them and you'd rather just try to regear to somewhat compensate for it, that's fine too. But I would definitely regear if you're running 373s and 35s right now. It's going to be real hard to tow very heavy, and keep it cool and stay in the power band.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed even with the setup I got, my EGTs get pretty. I mean, I'm pretty good at keeping them under 1200 or so, but if it don't downshift and it stays in overdrive, it gets up there pretty good. Low boost numbers.
And is that if you're trying to cruise like below 2000 RPM?
Yeah, you like the 1800, 17, 18, 1900, you get real low boost numbers. Yeah, it gets real, EGTs get a little warm.
Yeah, you just really can't tow below 2000 RPM. You got to get RPMs up. That's what that engine's for. And maybe that'll mean downshifting manually. You can just use the overdrive button and kill overdrive until you're going fast enough that you can put it back. But yeah, anytime you're towing, you aren't going to be able to make any sort of power below 2000 RPM and maintain it. Hey, if you guys like this show, share it with your friends. Share it with anybody you think would enjoy it. I really appreciate you guys listening. Check out the next episodes of the 1023 Soul Shop Talk podcast, and you can find us at 1023soul.com if you're looking for parts. Thanks for listening.